All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Word with Ty Brownlow. I am your host, Ty Brownlow, and remember, no one is worthless, no story is worthless. And today, I have a very, very special guest on my show. Let me give you a couple of words about my guest now. Man, singer, producer, dancer, ill on the guitar. Oh, man, overall talent. That's the only word I could come up with to describe this person next to me here. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome, Planet 12, L.A.W. Law to the show.
What's up, man? So glad to be here, bro. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Hey, man, I appreciate you being on the show. And as I was saying, I was looking over your bio. I was checking out your reel. You are ill with that guitar, bro. You are very ill with that guitar.
Thank you.
So,
thank you.
Man, we're going to talk about, you, your musical background, your journey. But first, we're going to talk about the single you got out. You have a single out called She Can Get It with Jelly Bean Johnson. Now, is this the same Jelly Bean Johnson from the time?
Yes, it is. The one and only. There can never be another. The one and only. The timekeeper, the pocket breaker, the guitar shaker, the producing extraordinaire. That's him. Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, man, come tell me about the single, man. Like, how did all this come about?
Well, as most of my fans know that have been following me for a while now, even longer than that, my relationship with Mars Day and the Time, those are among my biggest influence in terms of heroes and everything like that. Like I have a top 10 of overall influences, and they're like in the 5 and 6 percentile. So we've been friends for a long time. Those are my uncles, my mentors, my big brothers. We actually opened up for them. The first time I got a chance to finally meet my heroes was when I opened up for them as part of the P-Funk band called Enema Squad. My boy Gabe Gonzalez is the leader of that. Shout out to Gabe. And I'm the lead singer of that band, so we were their opening act. But prior to that, me and my brother Peppy used to win talent shows imitating Mars and Jerome when we were kids. So we thought that whole thing was everything. Because, at that particular time, I'm an 80s baby, a proud one. So it's almost like at that time, you either had to be two things. You was either this guy over here, Michael Jackson, or everybody was trying to emulate Prince, with the dance steps and the makeup and all kinds of stuff. And of course, we didn't wear the makeup, but the whole point was that we always wanted to be like them. And me and my brother hated wearing suits to church until we saw Mars Day. And once we saw how cool they made suit and ties look, we was like, you know what, Pep? I think it won't hurt for us to start dressing up a little bit more every now and then. So fast forward to all the relationships that I had with them, Monty, Jerome was actually one of my best friends. Morris, spoke to him a couple of days ago. We've always been tight. And after opening up for them, every time they would come to New York, if I didn't have a show myself, it'd just be all of us hanging out, teacher and student. And one day, about probably, I'm going to say early, right, like December, and right going into January, Jelly Bean had hit me up because he wanted songs for his album, which I was beyond flattered by, because as you know, Jelly Bean produced Black Cat for Janet Jackson. He produced Criticized for Alexander O'Neal. He produced Crucial for New Edition. Yes. What in the heck could he possibly want from his nephew to contribute on what is going? So it made me feel great. So I had this song that I have been sitting on for the longest. Originally it was going to be on my album, but I started listening to him more, and I'm like, you know what? I heard all the songs that Jelly Bean did for his album, which are all great blues rock and a couple of R&B songs. Mm-hmm. But I noticed nobody brought him that Minneapolis, that swing. You know what I'm talking about.
I know exactly.
Hard enough for the guys, but sexy enough for the ladies, and that's what Minneapolis is basically. So I sent it to him, and he flipped. He said, "I gotta have this song. I gotta have this song." I said, "Okay, under one condition." He said, "Whatever you want." I said, "You gotta get Monty Moore on the keys, man. It ain't gonna make no sense to have a Minneapolis groove like this, and we ain't got Monty on the keys." By the way, for those that don't know, Monty Moore is the writer of the Janet Jackson hit Pleasure Principle, and If You Were Here Tonight by Alexander O'Neal. That's Monty.
Okay, all right. Yeah. So, man, we talking heavy hitters. We ain't even
yes, we are. We ain't talking about no poop butts. We talking about #1 records, gold singles, production, changing the game, Jimmy Jam and Terry. We talking that. That's what we talking about. And the rest was history. Then, of course, I put Tony M from New Power Generation because that's one of my rhyme items. So it just made sense. I always wanted to rhyme with Tony because, New Power Generation, that era, I think doesn't get enough discussion when they talk about Prince's eras. And that era spoke to me actually the loudest because I'm a real singer and I'm a real MC. So being able to do both, and Prince embraced hip hop during that period. He embraced the whole hip hop thing, and have Tony, Damon, and Kirk, aka the Game Boys, with the dancing and the rapping. It just made sense to put Tony on this record to have a whole Minneapolis meets Brooklyn sort of thing, and the rest is history. So.
Well, man, brother, like, hey, shout out to all of them, man. Shout out to you, you know, for even joining and like linking up and, man, just making everything just sound beautiful, man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
So let's just talk about some of the like people and some of the groups you work with, man. Some of the artists, man. I'm looking at a long list, so I'm just going to throw out certain names, and you know, you just tell me, you know, like how you feel about, you know, working with all these people. EPMD, Chico DeBarge, Drew Hill, Lettucey, I see Janelle Monáe, Ice-T, the late Tina Marie, Amy Winehouse. Yo, the list goes on and on. You've like, you know, played for like David Letterman as well, correct?
Well, I mean, the Amy Winehouse thing was David Letterman. That was
okay, all right.
There, so.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, man, like, you have a long list, okay, which is great, you know, but let me just ask, like, you know, when you are in the presence of all these musicians and all this talent, like, what does that do for you?
To be honest with you, I still feel very much like that 13-year-old kid in Brooklyn that was looking at the Parliament album cover, because, you know, the Parliament Mothership Connection is actually how I created Planet 12.
Yes.
And it saved me from beating my stepfather, for one. And then number two, what it also did for me is it showed me, because I told my mother at 12 years old, I'm gonna meet George Clinton one day. And it happened 20 years later, 15 something years later. So it's the thing is that, you know, what it does for me is it take me back to that place where I was that kid sitting in this room, constantly studying, listening to every album and every genre of music, from Dionne Warwick to Chaka Khan to Led Zeppelin to the Osmonds to Guy to Jodeci. Like it takes me back to that place. And coming from a musical family as big as mine is,
yes,
the whole plethora of being able to work with some of the heroes who I looked up to, even the ones who my mother studied. Like when I sang for Dionne Warwick a couple of years ago, that was a dream gig for me, because, and it's crazy because Ray Chu said that's why he hired me for that reason. He said, because I figured if anybody knows the background parts of this stuff, it would be you, because you always talk about how, you know, your mom's favorite singers are Nancy Ross and Dionne Warwick and Aretha. So I grew up on both sides of the fence because of who my mother is, who my legendary grandfather is with the early rock and roll and funk. Mm-hmm. Then, of course, from my uncles Bobby and Kevin, who are very involved in music on a local scene level. So we had all these things happening. Every time that I get with any one of the legends or the icons, for me, it's just it's overwhelming, but in a great way. It's almost just like, you know what, you really done all right. I have a moment to myself. I'm like, really done all right for yourself, especially the ones who we still have, because we lost so many heroes.
Yes, we
in
have.
the last 8 or 9 years. It's been rough. So it's like, you know, to be in the presence of Jeffrey Osborne and I can't even name off the top, and then the fact that, you know, me and Tina Marie were very good friends, and we had the 3 days before she passed away, we had just spoke about the tracks that she chose from me for her next album that she was working on. So it just was a lot of. So for me, I take every moment special. Like the times I have with Chaka Khan, that's family to me now. So it's almost like anytime I'm with her or we're just talking about Rufus albums, just normal conversations about recording and, you know, back in her day and in that particular environment, because all I did was heard it. I didn't, you know, growing up as a kid, I didn't get a chance to live it until I came into my own. So it's just special, man. It's special. Somehow, like even when I'm with George, like sometimes even to this day, I've been working with George Clinton for off and on for what, 20 years, so to speak.
Wow.
I still got to pinch myself, man. It's still like every time me and him get together, it's like father and son. It's really like that whole, like, hey dad, like what's going on? And even if we don't get a chance to sing together that night, just to hang out and talk and catch up with each other and just make sure that he's doing all right and everything like that. And then I have to pinch myself to think I left college for P-Funk University. So, you know what I'm saying? So it's crazy. It's crazy like that, you know?
Right. Hey, man, look, so, man, speaking of your family, man, let's, you know, talk about your, like, grandfather for a minute, blues soul legend, you know, the late, great Sam Bluesman Taylor.
Yes.
You know, man, you're immersed in musical talent. Like, what is music to you? Like, when you hear it, when you play it, when you think about it, what is music to you?
Music represents freedom. It represents power, believe it or not.
Yes.
It represents a space where one can totally be themselves, no matter what background they're from, no matter what color they are, no matter what their sexual orientation is, and even no matter what they've been through. Because I purposely know for a fact that God used music to save me from the street.
Yeah.
He saved me from myself, even when times when I didn't think things were going to work out the way they did. And it always be, you know, music is the person that never let me down, because even the Bible says man will fail you every time. But he ain't saying nothing about music though. So it's like, for me, it's like, you know, I take it with a grain of salt. It's like,
yeah,
you know, I could be at my worst, and I've had moments. We're all human. We've all been through things, and I can truthfully say that it was those times in music. Even as a kid, I can remember. I remember stuff from when I was like 4 or 5 years old. At any given moment when I couldn't get my way with my mother, or if I couldn't go somewhere, I could just put on, you know, Chaka Khan's "At Midnight My Love Will Lift You Up," and that'll just make me feel a whole lot better. Or put on Public Enemy's "It Takes Some Nations of Millions to Hold Us Back," and I get into my militant bag and start thinking about what's this thing called politics. And, you know, just see what I mean? I'm giving you a range, because that's pretty much what my musical plethora was like at any given moment. Or just when I just want to feel rugged and hardcore like the way that I am, I just throw on some Wu-Tang, man. And it's like, it comes from any angle. So music is a whole bunch of different things, but I have to quote Madonna on this, and I quote her because nobody said it better than her. Most importantly, music makes the people come together. Very, very true statement. From all walks of life, from everywhere that you go, you could have people going through problems. And as my very close friend and big brother, Lionel Richie, always says, love never goes out of style. So for me, the more love you have with somebody, music can perpetuate that and put you in a space where you're not even looking at where the person's coming from. All y'all know is that when that beat comes on, it just so happens, oh, you like that too? Oh, you like that? You like that? and I'm serious. Look, think about it. Have you ever been to a concert?
Yeah.
Somebody you don't know, and they may not know the next song that the artist is doing, but they're asking you because they're seeing how much you mouth in the words and how much you enjoying yourself in that, and that leads to more education. By the end of the night, they do their biggest record. Like All Night Long. Lionel Richie always pretty much ends with All Night Long. That's his most popular record. But everybody's dancing in the aisles, people that don't even know each other. That is the power of music.
Okay, all right. Hey, brother, that is eloquent. I couldn't say it better myself, okay? For real. Like, but man, so speaking of which, man, like, pretty much as I said before, you've been around musical talent. You are music. Your heart beats music. You know, your blood pumps music. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
What advice would you pretty much have for like those who are looking to get into the music game now? Because you know, now it's a little bit different. The music's different. The messages are different, and you know, just how people go about doing things are different. How have things changed from when you first got in to now?
Well, let me answer the first question. 3 parts to this. It's very simple. That's why I shake my head and I laugh, because when I have to think about, you know, we're gonna get to that question in a minute too, in terms of like what, you know, the difference and everything. But the first 3 things is be yourself.
Okay.
Nobody likes a pretender, male or female. Be honest with who you are inside of yourself, because this industry has a way of changing people for the better and most times for the worse, because they get caught up in the hype of a lot of different things that are said to them, you know, or different things that are shown to them. And once you find out the silver lining between it all, it can make you into a whole other person, and then you have to start living with regrets and all kind of stuff. So that's the reason why I look the way I look. And I'm not bragging on myself, I'm just being real. People say, you don't look like, I said, you know why? Because I learned very early in life, and thank God for my mother, man. I love that woman so much, because she made sure, like, even my whole family, but really my mother taught us how to love. You got to love yourself, man. Because the day that you don't love yourself and you get into this industry and they teach you who they want you to be, instead of you being who you want to be, That's how, look, that's why I don't, honestly, that's why I don't really judge people who have become my grandfather was a drug addict for a minute. And the thing is that because the depression value of the way the industry is ran will drive insane, like for real. And so be yourself. Number 2, on your craft at all times. Never get caught slipping. That's the reason why those kind of doors open up for me and still opening up for me, because in the words of Shirley Lee Ralph, I stay ready so I never have to get ready. Even now during the course of the pandemic. And if I'm not resting my bones or chilling or doing normal stuff like playing video games, I'm constantly shedding. I'm always learning. I'm always reading. I'm always upgrading my equipment. I'm always trying to see how better can I be as a singer, rapper, musician. There's always something to do. That's the bottom line. And number 3, most importantly, the last thing of that section, and I'm saying it many times, and please don't judge me. Learn the business, 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 learn the business. Low time. Learn the business. So that's the first half of that question. The next half of that question is how's it changed? Truth be told, certain things have changed, but some things remain the same. And the one thing that remains the same is that you can have all the technology and gadgets in the world. You can have all the social media likes and follows that you want. But ultimately, if you don't have real talent or a real personality to engage with people, see, I'm from the era where there was no social media. So it's like, it's easier for me.
Yes.
But I'm a computer baby because I was one of the first kids in my hood that had a computer. So like, I had a Commodore 64 and an Apple IIe. So I was already
64.
They don't understand. Commodore 64, that was the. Are you kidding me?
Ooh, not the Commodore 64,
that's a whole other conversation
bro.
for another interview. But listen, we can talk about. Look, I still have my floppy disks. Believe it or not, I still have them.
Stop.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Stop
I have the keyboard. I don't have the monitor, but I have the keyboard. Oh yeah. My mother was a computer science teacher, so I had pretty much everything, the advantages I have. But the ultimate goal of what I want to say is that some things change, but the industry is still the industry because there's still labels out here trying to give the same 360 slavery deals to artists. Meanwhile, the phrase remains the same about when they do that little BS quote about rap is a young man's game, which is BS. I said, no, rap is a game that you can play forever if you play it right. Look at Ice-T, look at L.L.W, look at Eminem. These guys are well into their 40s, 50s, and I see a 60, 61, I think.
Yeah. And
he's still relevant. You have to be able to monopolize, and mind you, Ice-T is successful because he stayed true to himself. No, Ice-T's never been nobody else
but Ice-T.
L.L.W, same thing. So it's almost like, think about this. These are people who I study career-wise, even as my rhyme heroes, because if you look at their career, they've been able to do movies and television. Look at Snoop. Snoop is probably the most famous, relevant rapper there is because Snoop appeals to everybody, even kids. So my thing is just that the technology part of it has changed some things, but the hardcore old school values still remain because God forbid if social media shut down, these other people would be through. See, if social media shut down for me, I would miss it, but my career ain't over.
There you go.
I'm still working. I got gigs booked. Next year is looking crazy right now because all our gigs that got postponed for this year after COVID, they moved them to the gigs that were all that, but that's in addition to the ones that we already have planned for next year. So
you're gonna be nonstop.
Absolutely, and honestly, that's God's blessing for me being diligent and just me staying true to myself and just being able to move forward. And when you got real supportive fans, and then, when COVID hit, I just looked at it as, okay, Lord, you can't do no shows for these next 5 months. What you gonna do? Oh, I know. Let's do what I've been doing. Let's just keep doing it. And then guess what? I'm gonna create a podcast in the midst of all this. So it's, you know what I mean? It just really, like I said, the game doesn't necessarily change. Only the players do certain aspects, but the contracts remain the same. So I always look at some of these rappers that get these deals and stuff, and they think that they're riding high. And I'm like, if you didn't have a good lawyer and you just signed, because there's a reason why they like them young, because they figured you're 16, 21 years old, you're from the hood, you ain't never seen that much money in your life. You ain't never seen no G's. You ain't never seen a brand, unless you was hustling the street. We ain't never seen that. So when, they come across, start doing their little raps and put together little beats and stuff, next thing you know, it's the new wave now. So now all the record labels want to get in on it. That's how it works. So when somebody did that whole thing, they said, okay, let's get another one. Let's get 2 more like this. You know what? Let's get the girls to start doing that too. And they start dangling these checks. And a lot of times these rappers and singers sign these deals not realizing that, you know, there's a whole like 24 other pages of that contract that you didn't bother to read, where they basically own your name. You own 3 cars, but you don't own your name. See, I mean, that's a whole other subject by itself, but I watched my grandfather go through hell. So he taught me early about publishing. That's the reason why I didn't get signed at 16. Okay. At 15, 16 years old, I was already moving in the industry right after I graduated high school. And I got signed with Henchman Entertainment, the legendary Jimmy Henchman. I was in that camp for a while. And the crazy part is that I'm fresh out of high school in 95. I graduated. So I'm fresh out of high school. And other labels that wanted to sign us, they didn't want to touch us after I knew about publishing. That's scary to them. A 16-year-old knowing about publishing and royalties.
You know what you're talking about. We don't want to.
They don't want that. They don't want to. No. And then to add insult to injury for them, I produce, I write, I can play every instrument except for horns.
Okay.
I have a built-in team. I'm not coming with. In other words, their guys won't be needed. So they figured, well, we can't invest in that because they want to make sure that their guys get paid. Right. I understood it, but it was still BS to me because I started seeing other people who were getting the same kind of deals. I'm like, no, they're just mad because I'm a Brooklyn Hood Scorpio with a mouth. So it's almost like they didn't like the fact that I was able to tell them. And then after I saw my brother's childhood friend, Jay-Z, you know, we grew up with them in Marcy. So after he took over the game, and I watched that whole Rockefeller thing happen. So it just taught me a lot. So what I look at now is that the industry only has certain changes, but certain aspects of it pretty much remain the same. So, you know.
Well, man, look here. You done heard it from BK's finest, Crown Heights, right?
You already know it. St. Mark's Ave, Albany Projects.
Already from the Heights, man. Look here. I didn't tell you. He just told you. You know what I'm saying?
Know it. Come on. SMA Lobby, boys. 959, 900 block.
Well, man, before we get out of here, I have to ask you this question, man, because it's a question that our show is known for. What one word best describes you and why?
Good question. It's a lot of words, but if I had to pick one, I would just say real, because everything that I've attained up till now, I've gotten on my own. And of course I've had help. I'm not saying I got it on my own. I'm talking about, but you gotta remember, what led me to the people that would end up investing in me or working with me or whatever they did, I had to be me first. Because ultimately, to work with somebody, you have to kind of either like that person or have an affinity for that person to want to do something for them, open the door. You know, George Clinton owes me nothing. Lionel Richie owes me nothing. Dionne Ward owes me nothing. Morris Day owes me nothing. So it's like, for me, it's ultimately that I'm living proof that you can be authentic, real in this industry, and you can succeed. And mind you, there's a whole lot more I'm going to accomplish in the next coming years. So much more to do. But for what I've accomplished so far, which is a pretty big deal, I'm proud to say that I can wake up every single morning knowing that I didn't have to cheat nobody to get here. Knowing that I didn't have to compromise my sexuality or my sensuality or my spirituality to get to where I had to get to. I didn't have to shuck and jive. I didn't have to cool myself. I didn't have to and mind you, I work with corporate gig America. So think about that for 1 second. We do bar mitzvahs, weddings all over the world and everything like that. And I've been with the same agency, Element Music, for the last 18 to 20 years. And I could truthfully say that my blueprint influenced the way the company moves. So think about that for 1 second. I did it by being me. Because, you know, you see a whole lot of coonery going on right now in the world that we live in. And the thing for me was that remain authentic. Everything that I've achieved and gotten is because I've been me. A lot of people didn't like it. Some people unfollow me. People block me. People say, oh, Lord, but you should do it. I'm doing it the way I want to do it. That's me. I can't help it. So that's why I say I'm real. I'm very tangible when it comes to that. I'm a people person. I love inspiring people to show them that, no, don't let nobody tell you what you can't do, and don't let nobody tell you how to be. You be exactly who you are, and you will attract the right people who are for you, whether it's a personal thing, whether it's a business thing. And that's the reason why I'm glad that I'm being me. I mean, look, I have Vanessa Williams on my damn podcast, bro.
So,
and you got,
man, let's talk about your podcast real quick, man.
Sure.
Let's just take a couple of seconds to talk about your podcast, man. So you have like not regular guests come on your podcast. We're talking like, man, Force MDs, Vanessa Williams. Like, we're talking like, man, hit makers. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about people who have been in the industry. Like, how did all this come about? Real quick.
Like I said earlier, during the COVID, I'm like, can't do no shows. And for the last 5 or 6 years, you know, all my fans, even my friends in the industry, yo, Lord, man, you're such a historian. You need to do a podcast. I've been hearing that all my life. Radio show, TV, because if I wasn't doing music, I'll definitely be doing journalism. That's what I went to school for. So, okay. So that would be it, or boxing. So, like, the first thing for me was like, Law, I think it's time now because you're home. Where the hell are you going besides working out? Where you going?
Right.
Besides the store? No, you're in the house. So guess what? I can call up all of my industry friends who I'm close to, and even some of the ones who I'm not close. I'm not close. Me and Vanessa Williams, we're becoming friends now because of all our ties in the industry. Right. So whereas Nokio from Drew Hill and Case, those are my 2 best friends. So that was the easy part.
Nokio. Shout out to Case and Nokio, man. Yeah,
man. So basically, and Spinderella, who I've known for 20 years, that's like one of my very good friends. So it's like, I said, well, let me call up all of my close friends in the industry and let's just get on IG Live and just talk about music. Because a lot of times when these guys get interviews, they're focused on the music, but then they get the same generic questions or they get the same kind of things that I know for a fact that they're tired of talking about because they get asked. Like, for example, you know, Big Daddy Kane, family friend, one of my rhyme heroes. That's right. Kane, he put up a post about this not too long ago. It's like a lot of times, you know, and it's not, he's not mad at them. He's not throwing shade at them or anything like that. But it's like, I know he gets tired of everybody asking about him and Rakim battling. It's like he didn't discuss this like 20 million times and then spoke about it. So he said he really enjoyed speaking on my podcast because we talked about albums, man. We just talked about Brooklyn history. We talked about, you know, because he's from Bed-Stuy. So, and mind you, my school, Boys and Girls High, is around the corner from where he grew up at, which is Lewis Avenue. So that's Brooklyn history for you. So you see what I mean? We could talk about tangible stuff, yes, or how he wrote his rhymes, or what led him to write this rhyme, or how does he choose his beats, or why did he think that the last 3 albums that he didn't get the critical acclaim that it should have gotten. Like, and he was very transparent, but he's always like that with me. He's my friend. So, but we just get a chance to talk about it here on Instagram Live and then make people get educated. I mean, people have been hitting me up all week. It's been 2 weeks since that Vanessa Williams interview, and people have still been hitting me up. All her fans, it's like, that's one of the best ones she's ever did. I said, you want to know why? And thank you. So you want to know why? Because I asked her stuff, and we talked about stuff that she rarely gets a chance to really talk about, because they're always talking about the movies and stuff. And rightfully so. She's one of my favorite actresses too. I love her acting, but she's one of my favorite singers. She was a big influence on me as a singer.
Yes.
Her tone, her phrasing, her love for jazz, and how she made it all mixed with the R&B and the pop. Because that's what I wanted to do. So you see what I'm saying? So I wanted to talk about her thing as an artist. So that's the reason why the Planet Talk podcast has been so successful, because it's real conversations, it's unfiltered, it's uncensored. I don't tell my guests what they need to do or how they should speak. I let them fly off the mouth, just like how I would do if I was talking on here. So it's the same thing. So yeah.
And I mean, pretty much like we're doing now. Look, man.
Yeah.
You get to, man, say what you have to say. I don't know your experience, so you're going to tell me what it is that you went through. So, man, we just keep it real like that. Man, look here.
Well, tangible is real. Like, people, if you're not real, people can't really relate, because some people pay money to be real. I said it. Some people pay money just to be real and not live in their truth. And then all of a sudden, when they wait till like the 5th album to do it, it's too late. Fans done moved on. Like, you had an opportunity to be everything who you are, and you chose to be what a label tell you what you should be, or what you think people will respond to. I built my fan base from the ground up, so I don't even know what that means. I built my joint up from scratch, just attracting people who thought like I did, musically, about pop culture, who says it like they mean it. And my fans love it. I remember people like, oh, got a foul mouth. Like, it is like he's always he's always saying this. He's always talking about somebody. How you gonna tell somebody they can't sing? And then that's the other small half of that. But then I had people on the other side like, Lord, I talk about the same stuff with my wife. And I'm like, see, that's the audience I'm looking for. So of course, gradually,
you're gonna go towards.
You move because they're just people that just love the way I spoke. I never intended for it to be this way on social media. I was like everybody else. I signed up for Twitter, Facebook, later Instagram, and just simply wanted to promote my music. Didn't want to tell my private business. Didn't want to do all that. I wanted to promote my music, but then I realized, okay, people are attracted to what I'm doing musically, but they're not really engaging. And until I started speaking and talking about things that were passionate to me,
gotcha.
That's when it really resonated. Most of my fans, a lot of them became fans of my posts first before they even heard my music. And then when they heard my music, it became icing on the cake. One fan came up to my show and she said, "Lord, I'm not gonna lie to you. When I used to read your posts, I used to be like, this guy really thinks that highly of himself to the point where I have to see if the hype is really real or not." And I have to say to you, brother, it really is real. You truly have a right to back up what you talk. And honestly, I laugh at that because anybody knows, man. It's an extension of who I am, but persona and personality are two different things. I don't walk around with my I don't walk around with my head in the clouds. When it's time to do the L.A.W. thing, I'm in it. I'm you know, most talented kid, rhyming, and when I get home, I'm Lawrence Worrell. I'm dad to my kids. You know, it's like the same type of thing, man. I'm sitting there with my feet up like anybody else. I don't feel like doing anything today before I work out. So I'm going to watch a marathon or walk a Texas Ranger. That's me. Like I'm very, I'm normal in that sense. I'm very normal and passionate at the same time. So it's just, people don't get it, but I still accepted her compliment anyway because I knew what she meant. And I had a feeling that people were starting to get that, but until they met me in person and they started seeing other posts of me talking about other things, then they really got a full spectrum of who I was and what I bring to the table. So it's all well and good, you know? Man,
look, I'm gonna say this, dude. Like, your energy matches how you play, okay? And man, as I said before, I've seen you on that guitar, brother. I've seen what you do, all right? And you're giving the same energy. And man, look, I was like, yo, I'm be doing this for real. Like, this ain't no joke. I treat,
and thank you so much, man. Look, I say this all the time, and a lot of women like to laugh at this because I'm just being who I am. I treat music like I treat sex, like I treat video games, like I treat working out.
Yeah.
It's either all or nothing. If you're not on stage giving 100%, and here's my motto: if you ain't sweating, you ain't doing like it's a theory. It's like you can have the most technical skill in the world, but if people are not engaged with you when you play, that's why Jimi Hendrix and Prince and Eddie Hazel are my top 3 guitar players, because anytime you look at those guys, they enjoy what they're doing. They're not, even if they're virtuoso, they're not trying to be the diva.
Right.
I could play a G minor 7 over a quarter of a ninth.
No.
Okay, that's all well and good. That's great, but people ain't screaming. So I realize, you know, this is the reason why Kiss is one of my biggest idols. I love Kiss. Gene Simmons just had a birthday. Okay. Because Kiss was basically the Beatles with makeup on. Their whole MO was that when I would go, Gene Simmons said that we created the rock band that we wanted to see, because I would go, he said he would go to other bands and other shows and he would see guys playing with their back to the audience. And Gene was like, if that's the case, I'd rather just stay home and listen to the record. I came to be entertained. I came to be entertained. I gotta pay what Steve Harvey said in that skit. I paid $38.50. You scream.
I came to scream.
The show. I don't want to. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
right.
And that's how I feel. And I learned early. You gotta remember, I'm from the era of New Edition. I'm from the era of Cameo. I'm from the era where the bands and the artists gave you a show. I mean, I had Karen White on my podcast.
Okay.
First thing about Karen White, that from the very beginning, and you know, look at all of Karen White's early videos. She always sold her thing. She sold it. Yeah. It wasn't just, I'm a black girl, I can sing. It was, this is what it is, and I'm going to give you every last bit of this. Even the women. Like for me, that's the world I come from. Prince, Stevie Wonder. Even though, and the fun thing about Stevie Wonder, because of course Stevie doesn't dance, but even this shit that he does, that's, to me, that's when you're feeling what you're doing. Stevie don't even know where he is. There is superstition. Right is on the wall. Like that's what made Stevie Stevie. Of course, the Jacksons. You know, that's the era I come from, where when you step on that stage, it ain't time to bullshit, man.
I got you, bro.
It's time to go for the juggler. It's time to go in and show people that they didn't waste their money. just time to show people. You know, that's the world I come from, man. So I can't say no better than that.
Hey, man, look here. I love it. Man, dude, I just love your musical influence and the influence music has had on you. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Now, man, like, if people want to get in contact with you, man, how can people find you?
Oh, well, that's easy. Of course, Instagram at Planet 12 Law, Twitter at Planet 12 Law, Facebook.com/LawPlanet12, and of course, all of my music is on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, Tidal, every digital outlet you can think of. Just type in the name L*A*W, or just type in Planet 12 Law or the Planet 12 Syndrome. So,
all right, man, you heard it here first. BK's finest, Crown Heights, man. My man, Planet 12 Law. Look, I'm Word with Ty Brownlow. Man, remember, no one is worthless. No story is worthless. You can find me on, man, Twitter, Ty Brownlow TV. You can also find me on Instagram at Word with Ty Brownlow, and Facebook, Word with Ty Brownlow. Or, man, basically just go to my website, tybrownlow.com. Get this interview along with the other goodness that we have for you. And, man, Brother Law, I appreciate you for being on the show.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed being here, man. Thank you for having me again. I appreciate it.
No problem, man. We out. Peace.
We out.